I did some last minute changes, so I changed the topic to how to do research on internally facing software. Before it was like just improving internal something experiences, but this is more specific. So even though I'm a product designer, I'm going to try and talk about user research today, because that's what a product designer these days should do as well, and know how to do, at least on their own designs. So let's start. This is me. Name is still Maido, senior. I was born in 1981, believe it or not. Product designer at Wise, and more specifically in the tooling team, or compliance tooling, or the internal tooling, or whatever we call it. And the domain I work in is KYC and fincrime. So everything we know about our customers and everything they do, we kind of try to gather those experiences and build something around it. Who of you know what Wise is? How many of you have used Wise or use it today still? Awesome. So for those who don't know, or because we also went through a rebrand just recently, Wise is about building money without borders, making it move faster, more convenient, and eventually for free as well. So we are a money transfer service, not a bank, and the first fintech unicorn in Estonia as well. We have 16 million customers, which is a amazing number. We move 10 billion euros a month. So that's kind of, you can imagine back and forth what that means in terms of money. And 1.6 billion is the amount our customers save every year while using our service. So again, like an amazing achievement of when you actually get rid of those hidden fees and let people use a fair price when they move money. You can move money to 70 plus countries with us, and we support 50 plus currencies. So again, kind of amazing achievement what the founders have done with the company. But enough of that. Let's talk about me. Let's talk. Like, designers are fancy, right? We like to talk about us. But also let's talk about the problem I have. Hopefully you have the same problem. Answer a couple of questions, and then I've prepared a case study for you, which is about doing research on a specific thing, which I'm going to present. And I'm also going to share a couple of learnings with you. So let's begin. Name is still Maido, chapter 1. I've been professionally in the industry for 16 years. As a freelance designer, I actually started in 1997 already. So a long time ago. I've done it all, I've seen it all. So started in traditional advertising. I consider myself a relatively good visual designer as well because of that, especially in the digital product design world. Been in online banking for 4 years. Anyone who knows Swedbank, I used to work in the digital department where we kind of built the future of online banking for Baltics, both consumer and business. So my hand was in that internet bank thingy there as well. And after 4 years, I moved to big tech. So I made 7 years in Microsoft, joined the Skype design team, a couple of achievements from there, Windows classic desktop, who still uses it. I think a lot of people had a Skype experience on that, plus OS X and mobile experiences as well, and Skype.com, what it used to be a couple of years ago. Now it has changed already, but Microsoft was really great experience for me because that was the time when I fell in love with internal tooling. So meaning anything that you build for your internal teams and that you use internally to do something or affect something external. So that was also the time when I fell in love with interaction design and developed my kind of skills in system thinking. So that naturally somehow led to me joining, again, fintech, going back to financial domain. It was TransferWise back then, now it's Wise. And yeah, that's one where I kind of did a 180 degrees turn, and now I'm designing only internally facing software. So tools for wisers, that's how we call our employees, like wisers. So anything they do on the daily basis, the tools they use, we, our team, design them, and with the goal, of course, helping them to be more efficient, happy, and by doing that also guarantee that you guys are happy when you are using Wise. So that's me. And reason why I joined Wise is a problem, which I think is a huge problem. It's everywhere. I see it still today. I've seen it, experienced it a lot in my previous life, and I'm sure you have as well. I tried to put it in one slide, and it goes, many large businesses as well as established startups still fail to treat their internal tools with the same respect as they would treat their customer-facing products. And it's true when you think about it. When was the last time you really had a great tool which you used to do something at work, other than, those big things that product designers use, like Figma, for example, or whatever? Like, you don't see like a really great experience as an employee at the company, especially for those big companies where, building those things is also expensive. It requires resources, right? Human resources, money, etc. So it's a serious problem. And I ask myself every time, like, why do we turn our attention to this only when it starts to negatively affect customers' experience? We don't oftentimes turn our attention to this problem, even if it somewhat positively affects the customer experience. So what is up with that, right? I think the answer lies like somewhere here. So we first kind of need to understand what an internal tool actually is. It could be a plugin. So something really small, running somewhere, doing something for you, enhancing your experience. Maybe it's a step in your process which happens automatically, or you have to interact with it. You usually don't notice it, but it's there. So great. It could be an integration or an automation. Again, probably something that you don't even need to really worry about or notice on a daily basis, because it's running in the background, it's doing something for you, but it's doing something for you, right? Someone has built it, someone has thought about you, or did they, right? It could be a platform. For a lot of us, I mean, let's take an example from the real world. Content management system, right? It's something that you use internally to manipulate something that is external. You do and something happens magically. So it's considered an internal tool. Or it could be, for us product designers, it could be a design system or a design library, because it's also a tool. If you use it to do your job, then it's internally facing software, internal tool. So it's really anything that you use that is tailored to your business or to the user. So, but there's an app for everything, right? Why should you care? I mean, you can go out there, search a little bit, you find something. It solves your problem. Maybe it solves a part of your problem, but it solves it partially. So let's pay for the subscription, let's pay for the license. You can start using it already today. No problemo. Why should I build my own tools? Like, why should I care that my tools are shitty? Building tools is expensive, right? Let's take an example. An engineer these days. Let's say they earn 60K a year. If they work half a year on a product, on a tool, that's 30K spent plus taxes. We could use that resource somewhere else in a much better way, right? Add a project manager to that. Maybe the tool is kind of bigger. 2 engineers, maybe a designer, 150 plus K spent in half a year, and you still can't use it because it's not launched yet. It's buggy. You need maintenance. So you can start using it maybe after a year. After a year, the world has changed. Maybe you don't need that tool anymore. Resources spent, not so wisely. That's why I like wise. It's like wisely. So yeah, but I can also give you a couple of reasons, and maybe you can already think of some reasons why you should build your own tools. So luckily, people end up in a situation where there is no cost-effective or solution that has all the features you need on the market. So that is a very good reason why you should start thinking about building your own tools. There's another reason. That's like I always get really passionate about this. Using packaged products, it's easy to end up in a situation where poor design becomes your new standard or your new norm. And what I mean by that is, product designers working on things, following principles, following guidelines, following best practices, right? You know what best practice actually means? Everyone does equally bad job. So you can end up in a situation where anything you use is kind of the golden standard for you, and you can't even oftentimes think further, like think better. Like what is efficiency? You ask yourself, okay, this solved my problem. I can do my thing efficiently. So everything like is kind of has to be the same standard, but you never know if that standard is the best that can be done. So anything you use internally, or of course, ideally built for your internal teams, directly affects your customer's experience and their relationship with your product and company. So everything is connected. If you are happy, your customers are happy. So how do you get to a point where you are happy? And there's a kind of bonus to that when this is how startups are born, actually, when you think about it. Every well-designed and purposefully built tool has the potential to become something more, right? It can be commercialized. And that's how startups are born, right? So how do you get to the point where you can say that a tool is really, tailored? It's really well thought through, and it really does what is said here, right? It affects your customer's experience and product, but positively, right? So let's look at a case study which I prepared for you. It's a short version, because it would require hours to talk through the whole thing, but it's about the tool for data analysis and visualization for our compliance and operational teams at Wise. So if you remember, I work in KYC/fincrime. It's a very specific domain, and it's the domain where I kind of design stuff. So the problem we had looked something like this. Not exactly like this, but something like this. Messy kind of stuff happening here and there. I tried to put it in words again. It's a long and tedious process of collecting and analyzing customer profile data and financial behavior. Also doing the same for their connections and all the people who are connected to those customers. And then doing that at the same time using multiple and internal and external sources. So a huge mess, complex process. The solution that we came up with looks something like this. Symmetrical, clean, neat, really straightforward. And it's a tool that would give us, our investigators, a full overview of case-related parties, their financial behavior, and would help make educated decisions faster. So we basically took the mess, we fixed it, and we built the tool. So how did we do it? I'm not going to talk about how we designed it, because that's up to you guys, how you design things. But before you can or should design anything, you should do your research. The way we approached this was really straightforward. It has some elements which you probably recognize, or if you have done research, you will know, that's the thing. But there's a lot of kind of nuances because, again, internally facing software world is a totally different world than the customer facing world. Yes, you can say that, the user research process and it's the same. I agree, but there are nuances which make a huge difference when you work with internal users. So you always start with a wiki. Why? This is your documentation. You want everything documented when you start a design project. Why? Because it's a place where you can also come back later when you design another project. You can kind of look at that and learn from that. Let it be your guide and like in doing something, and maybe in the process you also improve it, but always start with documentation. Anything you do, create a roadmap. Kind of have an understanding like how long something would take, or at least what is your availability, so you can kind of calculate and create a roadmap for yourself. Like this would take 2 weeks. This is 2 months. This and that. It's a really helpful tool for you to understand also how much time and effort anyone who is connected to this project will have to kind of invest. Start building your relationships, and internally facing software world is amazing in a way that everyone is there. You just go sit next to them and talk to them. Start building those relationships. Like find out who are the people you need to talk to, who have the most kind of power over things, or who are willing to listen to you. How you make them listen to you, I will tell you later. But in early stages of your user research, it's very important to show, this is me. I'm planning on doing that. The result is going to be this, and you want that. So start teasing early on and find those people who you can work with later on. So in the discovery phase, which is one kind of step in the research process always, and it's not only true for internally facing software, but a lot of times for customer facing things as well, but map the existing processes. Look at the as-is solution, like what is the situation currently? Try to understand it, analyze the flows and everything, user journeys, and map everything. So it will help you build the thing later, or at least make decisions easier. Map existing tools. So this is really, so I'm trying to make it like internally tooling facing specific, but internal tooling software specific. So usually you have several things that you use in your process. Once you have mapped the process, also get an understanding of what those tools are, because otherwise you probably don't know what you need to do, like what you need to build, if you even need to build, because in an ideal world, you don't need tools. It's usually the process which is broken, right? So if you, as a designer, manage to fix the process, it's like godlike. It's like hands down the best thing you can do. And tool is just, nice to have. And if really necessary, because it's expensive, don't forget it. Building tools is expensive. Identify shared pain. So this is something which I mentioned here. If you go to the go building relationships, shared pain is a really awesome way how to bring people together behind the desk. If there's only one person or a set of people or a team which has some problem, it's much more difficult to sell your idea or your plan to them. If there's shared pain, now that makes people listen. And if there's a shared pain, there's also business impact that you can create. So also remember that, especially as a product designer these days, you don't only design for users. You also need to keep the business needs in mind. So this is a really clever way how to make business impact as a designer. Shared pain. Create a research plan, always. I guess when you design something, you usually do have a design process. Then for research, you have a research process or principle set in stone, maybe. And then the research plan is a really nice way on how to, it's like part of your documentation as well, again, which you can always turn back to and use for future projects, or anyone else who really wants to do some research on things, they can use it. So a clear plan is also a really good way how to keep things structured and consistent when doing things. There's nothing wrong with changing the plan every now and then, and you probably have to do it based on the specificity of the project that you work on. But a research plan is a thing. So define your objectives, what you want to achieve. Try to keep it narrow. It would give you kind of much easier time later when you start kind of analyzing all the research outcomes and insights, doing the synthesis. I really like design synthesis. So when you keep yourself focused, you won't need to worry about afterwards things getting blurry because there's so much information you need to process. User research objectives usually outline what we want to learn from the research and what outcomes we hope to achieve. So it's a kind of must-have part of your research plan. Identifying target audience. Again, oftentimes when you design something for the external, like the outside world, let's say that, it's much easier to identify the audience. But internally, like depending on the problem, depending on the processes and the tools that you have mapped before, there could be actually multiple audiences. A lot of different variables that play a role here. So it's never a single user or a single type of user. And identifying your audience provides you with again, clear focus. It's much easier to do research, much easier to design later if your pre-work is really focused. And it helps you keep the target audience at manageable level as well. You don't want noise. Imagine you go to users right away and then start asking them questions, especially at your work. Sit next to people and then, hey, what's this, that, and how you feel about this? And you get so much emotions. You don't want emotions. You want like facts. You want really this really valuable part, and this is how you get it. Keep it focused. Keep the group or the audience, keep it like small at first. Later you can kind of expand, but talk to the key people, talk to the stakeholders, talk to the team leads, talk to the, I don't know, someone always has a strong opinion about things. Talk to these people, but don't talk to the actual user first, at least not in internal design world, internal software world. So define your research methods. Why? So as a product designer, you should probably know the difference between methodology and method. So methodology is the strategy behind everything. It's the kind of approach you take. Methods are just tools that serve a specific purpose. So the keys to successful research is understanding the methodologies first, and then afterwards kind of applying those methods that come out of this part of the process to then do the actual or choose the actual tools for which you use for doing the research. And yeah, as I put in words on this slide, it will help you choose the appropriate research methods in later stages, and also ensure that the data that you collect is reliable, valid, and actionable. And that's like the most important bit, actionable, because anything you gather, all the insights you gather, all the feedback you gather, you need to be able to act on it. Otherwise, it's just noise. Like, nice to know, but so what? Always as a designer, as a product designer, especially if you do research, ask yourself like, so what? Okay, I did this, they said that, so what? I have a problem here, so what? The couple of methods which I see in our team as well, which help us a lot when doing user research. I think this applies also for like packaged products, or when you build something for your customers externally. Then online surveys, always a really good way. For quantitative research, is a really good way for doing that. So you get a lot of data, a lot of numbers. User interviews can be moderated, unmoderated. So gives you a lot of those things which I mentioned before, emotions and kind of feelings and beliefs, which you also need. You can't do proper research without those things as well. So user interviews seem to be a really great way for doing that, at least for us. Usability testing, in product design world, we usually do that with prototypes. Again, it can be a guided kind of process or unguided. So you build something, you share a scenario, and the user has to go through it themselves, or you sit next to the user, you tell a story, and based on that story, the user does something, and then you observe what they actually do, if they do it in a correct way or not. So usability testing is a really great method of doing user research. And my personal favorite, observational research, put in more human words, it can be called work shadowing or side by side. So it's these things which you kind of do face to face with the user, usually being silent, trying not to talk at all, because designers like to talk a lot and ask questions, which is great, but try to be silent, observe, have a list of criteria which you need to follow or observe, behaviors, and then make notes. It requires a little bit of like getting used to training, so you can notice everything, but side by side is a really great way how to get like first-hand insight into how people actually are using something and what they feel and think about when they use a thing. Now, after one and a half years, I believe, almost 2 years now, the tool has been out there for our users. As of Q1 2023, the stats are really great. 2,500 plus active monthly users, which is pretty much everyone who we attended this tool for, which is great. The growth since beginning, I think, has been more than 300%. So it's kind of growing all the time. And at some point, it will probably reach the limit because there's no one left, right? Everyone is using it. But really great results thanks to proper research, thanks to proper work before we actually started designing anything. One of the main goals which we had was getting rid of other tools. Remember, there was multiple internal and external tools that the agents or the people used to do their thing. So we were able to get rid of 12 of those, which is amazing. So instead of those blocky thingies around the slide, you have just one thing where everyone contributes to. The data is also flowing into that thing, and that thing then visualizes and does something. So you can just be there, do your thing, and move on to the next case you need to investigate. Life hacks, one of my favorites again. Everyone always has something that they do to enhance their experience, right? So someone take post-it notes. Other people just write on paper, draw, they make, create some weird formulas in Excel and run some numbers. And everyone always has a hack that they use because either the tool or the process is not optimal for them. It's not tailored for them. So it's a really great source for inspiration. Whenever you need to build something, let's say you build a mobile app, why not? When you do your research, try to find out what are the things the users do besides, using the app, the service, or the product. Like what are the other things, in which environment they are when they are using it, and so on. You get a lot of kind of interesting things out of that, how to kind of make your product or service better or tailor it, because the biggest achievement would be if you have a tailored solution and people really appreciate it, give you the feedback that it really does what it was, what they expected it to do. So technical stuff for you engineers, 99.8% uptime, which is kind of great. Deploy time, again, because we built a tool afterwards which was kind of optimized as well, so it allows us to push updates and features faster. And it's also scalable, again, because it combines everything from all the other tools, or not everything, probably the bits and parts which are relevant to the user. So, and then it's built in a way when you do the research properly, you should also always calculate the scalability into that. So for us, it's like, you can take the tool and give it to another team, which probably has a different process, which probably has a different way of doing things, but it will still work because it kind of transforms itself. And it's only like it's a skeleton. The magic happens in the background. So the data flows in and then it does something. So, I mean, I could talk about it for hours, but instead I'm going to just show the 4 kind of design goals, which I set to myself after I did the research and when we started building this thing. So I wanted to improve the efficiency and speed of investigations, which we achieved. Improved onboarding experience for junior specialists or like new users, which is really important. Any time you build or like really anything you design, anything you build, you want to build it in a way that it's what's the word? Self-sustainable, or like, you don't want to maintain it yourself or spend any resources on keeping it up or doing something with it all the time. So it has to live its own life, and always set this goal to yourself, onboarding new users and how you do that. So that's also where the documentation, for example, comes into play. When the user struggles with something, they need support. You don't want to have a 24/7 support internal, like one person sitting there and answers everyone's questions. You want a wiki. So start with a wiki. The goal was to decrease number of unnecessary aspects of investigation, which in other words means basically optimizing the process. So always look at the process first. If you can do something there, then start building something. It really applies everywhere. Like, doesn't matter which product you build. It's usually the process which is broken. So, and yeah, of course, you need to support the company growth of anything you do. And this is important. This is where you need to think back of the slide where I had the building the relationships and stuff. So early on, start talking to people, figure out who is who and who is responsible and owns what. So they can also tell you a lot of good information about how to do the research or what the actual problems are, or also help you create a business impact again, because product designers should never create only user impact, but also business impact. So what I learned from this, and I tried to put, I think, in 3 slides, and it's something that I personally learned from it. I don't know what others learned, but I personally learned that efficiency is never about having more time. It's what you do with the time you have. When you create a research plan for yourself, when you have a research process that you need to follow or want to follow, when it's done in a proper way, you can be efficient. You can do things much faster. You can make decisions much faster. It's probably much easier for you to communicate this to other people as well, to collaborate on different things. So never try to find more time, or having more time, it's a really bad excuse. We need 2 more months to release this or to fix that. No, try to think how you can do it in the time you have. And there's a lot of ways how you can achieve that. Try to be efficient in what you do. Have a plan, have a process. You should never build tools just for the sake of building tools. And it's also true for really, again, anything else. You don't build an app if no one needs it, or website if there's no product that you can put on it, or don't even build a landing page for yourself if you don't have anything to say to the world, right? It's just waste of time, waste of resources. Again, it's always the process which is broken, probably. So try to fix it first, then start building something. And remember, especially for those of you who work, maybe, I don't know, I didn't ask the question. I actually should have done the research. Who works in internal tooling world? Maybe we have someone here. Tooling always follows process. Thank you.
Thanks for the presentation. That was insightful. And do you already have some measurements how that the tool affects the business, like monetary wise?
Oh, I mean numbers. Then yeah, I do. Probably not allowed to share those, but the way the tool performs today, the only obstacle for it to have even more business impact or grow as a product is a bit which I mentioned, tailoring it to the users more even, because since the launch it has grown. First, it was launched for I hope I mentioned it, but for really specific teams. So naturally, the content, everything is tailored to them. The way we did it was use storytelling. So if you have to work with data, what is the best way to consume the data? You have to read it like a book, sentence by sentence, even if it's numbers, even if it's visuals. The easiest way to consume data is reading it like a book. So we applied storytelling principles. We were able to build something amazing for these guys, but that doesn't necessarily work for those other guys. So that was also one of the goals of this research, where we try to understand how the users actually use it, where in their workflow this tool fits, how they actually use it, what they do with it, and when, and then kind of define those opportunities, how to tailor it. So the numbers, yeah, tricky. I can say, or I would say, and I hope I don't lie, 6 to 7 digit numbers a year saved on expenses. We have like weird metrics sometimes, but the most relevant ones for this tool are case handling speed, which has decreased. We have speed has increased. Like the case handling time has decreased, so speed has increased. Efficiency, like what is efficiency, right? If you are able to use the tool the way we expect it and the user expects it, then I think it's efficient. If it follows the process, it's efficient. So success on that front as well, and a lot of other things which I'm probably not even qualified to talk about. But I'm really proud to say that for me, when I joined Wise almost 4 years ago, that was the first kind of tool I started designing as well and did the research on. So, it doesn't have a real name, but it's the which was for our, it's a tool for investigations. So, and data analysis and visualization for really specific teams. And yeah, I mean, the goals which I mentioned, these were all achieved. So I'm really happy personally how it performs today. Yeah.
And how did you convince your stakeholders to build it? Like, it's a lot of resources. Did you, what did you use to convince them to build it?
And it's always like, it's one of the biggest challenges always to get the buy-in from stakeholders, because again, building something internally is really expensive in terms of manpower, womanpower, in terms of money and whichever resources. It's really, really expensive, and it starts paying off later. And that's also one of the reasons why a lot of companies, and that's okay, especially with early stage startups, small companies, if you get a packaged product, it's totally fine. But like once you grow, you will start noticing those shortcomings of these things. And I totally forgot about the question. So if you
what did you use to convince your stakeholders to build the
For me, it was the shared pain, which I mentioned before. So, but for me, that was easy, because the teams that we were focusing on, we knew that they have the same problems because they use the same tools. It's probably much more difficult, or sometimes even not possible, to discover the shared pain when you are working on the external software domain, because they usually have a single problem, or when you do market research, you solve for one thing and then you discover, oh, there are other things as well, and it partially already solves this and partially also, and that's like how you grow, right? So for me, it was shared pain, and that's like where the growth or the efficiency and then reducing risks and everything comes from. So a lot of metrics that you can attach to that.
So it was painful enough to convince them to
yeah, and really show them that, when we fix this, the users will be happy, the team leads will be happy, the business and the customers will be happy. So you need to kind of show the connection there. Yeah.
I have one more question. Is it okay? Yeah. And you mentioned during your presentation that if the solution is great, then you can then like create a startup or something, like sell it somewhere else. Yeah. So is this something that is planned to do, or
with this product or this thingy? Not necessarily, because right now it works really great for us, and it would probably require a lot of polishing, also in terms of product design, visual design, because there has to be delight as well. When you create a product out of something, then it has to look good, right? Internal things usually work really well, but they don't look that good. It looks good, I can promise you, but it's not that great. So it's just a little bit of work that needs to be done. But it's not a plan at the moment. Yeah.
I have a question about timing. So as I understood, you've developed it for like 2 years around, yeah?
We did the research in a couple of months, then we built the
that
MVP.
was my question.
MVP in like
research, what time?
Research
what
plus
time,
MVP half a year.
What time designing, what time development?
Yeah.
Can you like share the numbers of what
so
time you did it?
Research, I think initial research was done in two months with 3 people. Then we built the thingy in 3 or 4 months. So after half a year, we could already launch the MVP. And then once the first teams started using it, we were at the same time developing it further. So we already, and that's the magic, like when you build something for your internal teams, you can launch it real quick. You can get first-hand feedback. Again, just sit next to the person. Hey, try using this. What do you think? And insight research, like it just comes, like information comes, and you can do something with that. There's a lot of emotions, but that's up to you as a designer to kind of filter that part out and get the valuable stuff, right? So yeah, but I think it's kind of now after almost 2 years, we still need to fix some bugs. So, yeah,
makes sense.
I have a question regarding research methods. You mentioned that your favorite research method is observational research. I wanted to ask how it differs from, for example, user testing, or how you conduct observational research. Can you describe like?
Yeah. So what I meant here with usability testing, or was it that the other one, like observational versus usability, or okay? So in my world, or in my understanding, number 3 is all about prototyping, all about having a clickable thingy for the user to play with, or at least a scenario in whichever form. It can be on paper, it can be, something really low fidelity, but usability testing, in my world at least, or in my understanding, most efficient way is when you have a prototype. Observational research is when you already have some version of the tool, like the MVP, for example, and then you sit next to the user, or in whichever other way you can just watch how they use it. And then the key here is to let the user think out loud. So anything they do, anything they feel, anything they think, they should say it out loud. Oh, I'm like this, and then this is okay, and
decision, right?
And then it's up to you, like which kind of criteria you set for yourself, like what should you observe, and then you just need to be really quick on the keyboard and make notes, or use there's an app for that, like transcribe tools. You can just record it. I don't like recordings because you know how much it's so much more difficult to look through all of that once you have done it once already. Like it's so much more energy consuming than just making notes and on the go. Like it just gets, you need to get used to that, like to filter out the important things and just write it down. Later, the amount of the information that you need to process is so much smaller as well. But yeah, again, have a plan, have like set criteria which you then follow, and based on those you do your observational research as well.
Thank you.
When creating this kind of when planning and designing this kind of a product for your like tool for your internal processes, is there a way, and how can you safeguard against that same product becoming outdated in like few years time when processes change? Like, is there something you can plan in right now so that it doesn't become the problem that you're trying to solve right now?
Yeah. Just to make it easier for me to answer the question, I will do it based on that tool as well. So there's one thing which we did, like a product design specific thing. We used a design system. That's number one, because a design system is a living thing. Anything that changes on the visual part, on the interaction or the UX part, automatically is kind of happening in the tool as well when the design system changes. The other thing we used, so another tool in our toolbox is modular design. So we try to, especially those data-heavy, complex, really functional interfaces, we try to build in a way that adapts to the screen size. It adapts to the users' like roles, and because ideally you would want to, especially for those big tools, you want kind of somewhat role-based approach. You want to tailor the content for the user, meaning that it only gets the relevant information that this user needs. So for us, especially because we have a lot of users, we have a lot of teams with different needs, modular approach, modular design principles allowed us to kind of build something that just changes itself when you log in, or when you log in, or when you log in. Information is different, but it always works because, you know, there is no fixed UI or fixed kind of layout for some things, of course, but everything depends on what data is put into the tool, and then it kind of does something. So when there's a rule that this type of data needs to be a visualization, then it creates a visualization. If that type of data needs to be a table, then it's a table. If it's both, like mix of both, then it's like something really different again. So it reacts to the type of input it gets. So this way, it's always like when the process changes, you know, the boxes just shift around, but you still read it like a book from left to right, from up to down usually. Of course, there's like right to left reading as well, and so on. But like, what are the chances that, you know? But maybe there are. So another challenge, which I really liked about the previous presentation, like a whole other level of research, right? But accessibility, inclusivity, these are all the things that you also need to always consider when you do product design, and that's like where this can be used. So I hope it answered your question. I kind of drifted away a little bit, but I'm really passionate about these things anyway. So. Thank you.